start by asking you a question. What would you like to change? What comes to mind? Give it a little thought right now and just see what bubbles up. Another way of saying this is, what would you like to create that you do not now have or experience? Take a deep breath and just sit with that for a moment. Are you focused on what you want to create? Write something down. Pull out a Post-it note. Pull out a piece of paper. Write something down that comes to mind for you that you would like to change, influence, or create. Now think about it. For the last day or couple of weeks, have you been focused on that? Have you been talking about what you want to create? Or have you been talking about the lack of what you want to create? Focusing on what you want to create is the byproduct of the desired change. And then we need to ask ourselves, who could I talk to, who could I interact with that could help open doors, give me insights, ideas, and inspiration to create the desired change? If you have a clear vision for that for yourself, again, jot it down right now. And with that in mind, we're ready to talk about conversations for change. Conversations determine our goals, our career paths, our team's success. Conversations will determine how much money you earn and what kinds of opportunities you are given to learn new things in your own organization. Conversations will determine your future success and how meaningful relationships are for you. Today, in this webinar, we're going to focus on 3 components of conversations for change. The first one has to do with emotional intelligence. We'll talk about what it is and why it's important for you. We'll also look at the specific conversation for change. There are 12 different types of conversations that impact our ability to connect with others in meaningful ways, and conversations for change is one of those. Another is conversations for creating new possibilities. And so those are the 3 areas of focus in our discussion today. We'll start with emotional intelligence. 90% of the difference between star performers and average performers is related to emotional intelligence. This is really significant. If we want to be someone in our organization who is perceived to be a high potential star performer worthy of being invested in, we've got to build our emotional intelligence muscles. But also, if we want to be a really great communicator, if we want to increase our effectiveness in building strong relationships with other people, we've got to build our emotional intelligence. When I first heard the phrase emotionally illiterate, I literally stopped what I was doing. Let me give you a little background on what was going on for me at the time. I was responsible for management and leadership development in a global organization. And we knew that the organization was going to be going through dramatic changes in the upcoming year. The president of the organization had asked me to find a change management expert to help us prepare the organization for the upcoming changes that we knew were inevitable. I interviewed a bunch of different change experts and found one with a PhD in change management who had worked on the types of issues that we had going on in our organization. And with great excitement, I brought him in and gave him the opportunity to meet with each of the senior leaders in our team. After that, he came back to me and said, Shawn, before we can address the change issues in our organization, we have to focus on something else first. The leaders in this organization are emotionally illiterate, And as a result, they will have a very hard time connecting with the employees to help guide them and process them through the needed changes. Well, that was it. Hit me like a lightning bolt. I said, it's very emotionally illiterate. I'm probably emotionally illiterate also. And so I began to create my own emotions dictionary. I began to read about emotional intelligence and how to use it. That was over 15 years ago. The topic of emotional intelligence is a hot one. In the March 2011 issue of Talent Management magazine, one of the articles is titled, "Are Your Leaders Emotionally Stunted?" The byline is, there's evidence that emotional intelligence initiatives improve individual and organizational performance. I've seen it firsthand, not only in my own life, but in the lives of executives and managers and individuals whom I've had the opportunity to work. So if you're saying, wow, maybe this whole emotional intelligence thing really is important and I can see how it impacts conversations, then you would be asking, what do I need to know? Here it is. Emotional intelligence really is 7 core emotions and 5 competencies working together intentionally. When we are conscious about what we're feeling and we understand the components of emotional intelligence, we can be wise, we can be mindful about our actions, about the conversations that we create. So today I'm going to give you a really good understanding of how to spot the 7 core emotions in yourself and others, and then how to grow your own emotional intelligence by processing yourself through more experiences. So that's where we'll continue this conversation. I want to give you a sense for the 7 chemically identifiable states in the human body. I mentioned previously that when I first heard about emotional intelligence and what it means to be emotionally illiterate, I began to track the words that I heard that had an emotional tone to them. And I came up with hundreds of words, and I was confused in myself about how to identify what emotion was present at the time. So when I came across this research about the 7 core emotions, it solved a big problem for me because I could immediately begin to think about which of the 7 core emotions is operating. So love, this is the emotion that's driving us to be passionate about things. For example, is there a project that's on your to-do list right now that you're passionate about, that triggers you to feel excited? Joy, hope, sadness, envy, anger, fear. These are the 7 core emotions. And I would encourage you to begin to identify what triggers you to feel each of these. For me, if I have the opportunity to go puppy hugging, sitting with a group of puppies, it just triggers joy for me. I love that. But for someone else, they might find a group of puppies jumping all over them to be an annoying mess. I share this because we all have our own emotions map. We all have a wiring in our brain that has a trigger, an event, an activity that occurs, wired up to